It's nice to see you. Welcome, and let me know who you are, or actually, who you are should be in your little comments or your little wherever you're logging in. But let me know where you're from and what line of work that you're in. I know you're joining because you are wondering how your networking could be a little bit better. Especially if your networking is not working. For those of you who are here, we are on the second day of the new year, and here you are joining me. You are definitely a networking type of guy or gal, and I love that. So let me know. Let's see, we're already burning up the comment section. Very good. My name is Eugene. You're from Israel. Very good, Eugene. It's very nice to meet you. Let me know what line of work that you're in, Eugene. Very good to have you here. And Dan, is it Dan? Hold on one second. Sorry, I'm gonna just go ahead and put these on the screen. Hello, Eugene. It's good to see you. And then we've got Dan Fields. Oh, Dan, yeah, you just joined the Facebook group. Yeah, it's good to see you. Nice to meet you, consultant in San Diego. We've got Talia in Georgia, fiduciary benefits consultant. Excellent. We've got Madi, who's an architect in London. Abdullah, hello there from Pakistan, work in the software industry, web applications and mobile applications in Mernstack. Very good. As a founder of an agency. Excellent. Okay, so this will be, for as a founder, this may be, there's going to be parts of this, Abdullah, that are going to be very relevant to you, especially if it's your business. Kamara is a small business banker. Very good. Good to have you here. And Anna from Israel. We've got several people from Israel today. Very good. Nice to have you. Nice to have you here, Anna. Hey there. I just sold my tutoring franchise, and now I'm a business development manager for a cleaning and restoration company here in St. Louis, Mo. I'm just your neighbor to the east, Sarah. I don't really I don't need much of an excuse to get over to St. Louis. I love it there. Get myself some fried ravioli. I live in Indiana, so it's good to see you. And congratulations on the sale of your franchise, Sarah. Good to have you here. Eugene, I don't have a business, but I'm interested in networking and networking tips. Excellent. Okay, very good. Well, we are going to be covering a lot of that, Eugene. Let's see. CJ, I work in safety and manufacturing in Charlotte, North Carolina. Also own a small online e-commerce business. Very good, CJ. Good to see you here. Eugene is a BI developer. Okay. Excellent. Sarah, you're my neighbor. Thanks for having us. Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and if you guys want to share, and I know because you are networking type of folk, I want to give me one hot second here. I'm going to share a link for a community. If you guys want to join, you are more than welcome to. This is a community that I have if you guys want to keep in touch. And I'll just put that in there. And if you want to share each other's contact information, I know for those of you, some of you are joining from LinkedIn, some of you may be joining from YouTube, some of you may have joined from Eventbrite. I know there's going to be quite a few people who like to network. By all means, network away. Just keep in mind, I don't know anybody here, so do your own due diligence before you start handing out credit card information and things like that. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to get right to it. We have a lot to cover, and I'm going to try to do this in it's going to be a little over an hour. So probably a little bit after 4 o'clock Eastern, that will be wrapped up and put the fries in the bag. But I know you guys want to get started on your weekends, I'm sure. But let's see. We got Niall he's a realtor from Oklahoma City. Very good. Welcome, Niall. All right. We're going to get right to this. So here's a couple things. If you guys would like to continue networking, that's great. I just want to make sure that we get to everything here that we're trying to cover, and which is about helping you be more effective in your networking. And if you've got questions, absolutely, by all means, please put your contact or your questions right in the comments. Seems like you guys are burning it up, and I love that, Claudia. Financial advisor from NYC. You guys have had a busy political day last couple of days. So hopefully you are able to stay focused, Claudia. Financial advisor from NYC. Excellent. I actually grew up upstate in New York, and now I live in the Midwest. I live in Lafayette, Indiana. So this is what we're going to be talking about today is your networking not working, and things that you can do to make your networking more effective and more efficient. And I want you to think about this. Can again continue to network with each other. But here's what I want you to do. I want to make sure that you are getting the most out of today. So I'm going to ask you just a couple quick things. Please do your very best not to multitask. I know it's very difficult. I took an informal poll not too long ago where people were. I asked people, are you joining me on your phones? Are you on your laptop? Are you on a tablet? And there's about half the people that were on their phones. So that could mean they're mobile. That could mean they're doing a lot of other things. They might be trying to do other things and multitask. I totally get that. But here's what I want to do is I want to share with you, please, as much as possible, try not to multitask. I know it's difficult, especially in this age of where we're doing so many different things. But I'm just letting you know that we're actually not as effective or efficient when we're multitasking, and I don't want you to miss a nugget that might really be a game changer for you. So as best as you can, I know you're going to be taking some notes. You're going to be covering a lot of different things here, but just want you to think about that as we're going into this. And then, of course, again, if you'd like to join me, I put that link up there for the community that I have. It's a school community. You're more than welcome to join us there. And again, there's no cost to that. You are more than welcome to join. So I want you to think about this here real quick. I'm going to ask each and every one of you to pay attention to something for me. Sorry, I'm trying to get my mouse in order here. And I want you to pay attention to something for me. And I'm looking to connect specifically with business owners, entrepreneurs that you may know who are in the service industry. Maybe they're in the contracting business. Think of coffee shop owners. They might be in the real estate business. They might be in sales or rentals or property management, or they are contractors like heating and air, or general contractors, maybe contractors who do room additions. Okay, stop just for a second and pay attention to what I did just there. What did I do? What did I do just there? I asked. It's called a pre-frame. And a pre-frame is a powerful way to get people thinking about what it is that you're looking for. Okay, so while we're together today, I want you to think about specifically who you could be asking for. If when you're asking for referrals, if you happen to be using the word anyone who, that's going to be tricky. I didn't use the word anyone who. I said specifically, I'm looking for connections to business owners and entrepreneurs who are in the service industry or in the contracting industry. Think of coffee shop owners. They might be in the real estate business. They might be in sales or rentals or property management, but they might be contractors like heating and air or general contractors who do room additions, right? Notice the specificity there. And what that does is it ignites something in all of us called the reticular activating system. If I asked you to pay attention, hey, how many cars drove by you? You would be like, I don't know, right? Like, I mean, you're not even outside. But if I ask you how many blue cars just drove by you, now you're looking for blue cars. That's the way our reticular activating system works. I specifically asked you for coffee shop owners. I specifically asked you for contractors such as heating and air or general contractors. Now you're going, wait a minute, my brother Joe is a heating and air contractor. Maybe, or hey, I'm the guy who just did my neighbor's room addition. I wonder if he might be a good referral for Mark. This is how you start right out of the gate being much more effective in your networking by being more specific for your networking partners. So this is really going to be important for you, especially to be able to ignite that reticular activating system in other people. So got some other people joining us. Hello. We've got Dakita from Florida, multi-brand entrepreneur specializing in publishing, cosmetic services, and handcrafted body care products. Very good. Okay. Welcome. All right. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to start thinking about this today in terms of how you can be much more specific. Okay. And also not just what you can get from your network, but what else? What can you give? What can you give to your network? What value are you bringing to your network so that you maybe can help start to develop and bringing trust to the conversation? And here's the thing about trust is that you can have really the best product and service and everything else, but if people don't fundamentally trust you, they're not going to do business with you, and they're certainly not going to make a referral for you, and you may never know why. So there's two main areas in terms of building and generating trust very quickly. The fastest way to generate trust is by demonstrating competence, demonstrating that you know what you're talking about. You have to demonstrate competence quickly. Now, here's the problem is that many people start to go, exactly, Sarah, this is a great, I'm going to put that up on the screen. Sarah's bringing up people buy from people they trust. Absolutely. If they don't trust you, or if they don't trust someone, look, Jordan Belfort, if you guys have not ever read that book, I actually have it here on my stack of shame. Actually, it's not my stack of shame. My stack of shame is the books I haven't read yet. But let me add my extra camera here. I didn't do that here. Here, just a second. And what I'm going to do, so I will put this up on screen here for just a second. Okay, can you guys still hear me? Yeah, you guys still hear me. So here's just one of my bookshelves here. I'm going to pull this off. Wasn't planning on talking about this book, but this book's called The Way of the Wolf, and it actually does follow the movie to a certain degree. It's a pretty brash written book, and I don't care about foul language, but I just generally don't swear when I'm on stage or anything like that. But The Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort, and one of the things he talks about in this book, it's really good. It's a really good sales book, but he talks about a couple of different things. And if you're wondering, do I color coordinate my books? Yes, I do, because I can actually find them much faster. All my books are actually color coordinated, especially the ones that I read. So here's the interesting thing about that, though, is that when you take the time to think about when you're in the sale, and this is something that I really appreciate about what Jordan Belfort wrote about, is it wasn't about punching people in the mouth until they said yes. And there's a lot of people who sell this way, right? It's not about punching people in the mouth until they say yes. It's about bringing something of value to them and asking them. And that fundamentally, if they don't buy from you, they either don't trust the product, they don't trust the business that you represent, or they don't trust you. It really comes down to that. Now, I will add in another component to this, is that sometimes people won't even enter into the buying conversation because they don't trust themselves. Right? Think about it. How many times have we not taken that salesperson's call? And I know that I do this. I don't take that salesperson's call because I don't trust myself to say no. Okay. Now, we're not talking about sales here. We're not going to get in that selling conversation. I actually do a whole other webinar on selling. But what I'm saying is that trust is so important from top to bottom, and much of it starts with competence. And the fastest way to generate trust is to demonstrate competence. Let people know that you know what you're talking about. Okay? Now you've got to do this in the right way. You can't just interject something in some way about, like, I'm having a conversation with Sarah and sell me this pen. Right. And here's the interesting thing about this. Absolutely hilarious. It's chapter 9. I believe it's page 119, maybe. I'm kind of going by this, but it's absolutely hilarious. Where did I have this? Oh, here it is. So I had it tabbed out. I was off by a couple pages. Page 138. Page 138, 139, but it is chapter 9. It is it's the art of prospecting. Okay, the art of prospecting. Can't really see it there, but it's sell me this pen. And the funny thing was, it was, hey, he talks about, oh, this pen is this. It's got this feature. It's got this benefit. But he said, dude, did you ever ask me if I even needed a pen? Right? It's a fantastic thing, and that was what was really, really good, is the fact that it was about demonstrating competence, that he knew the customer. He knew that they needed a pen. He wasn't trying to convince them to buy something they didn't necessarily need. So the whole thing around competence, that is the fastest way to generate trust with your referral partner, with someone that you might be selling to. The fastest way to destroy trust, what do you think? It's actually to demonstrate a lack of character. So here's the interesting thing. You can be the most competent person top to bottom. You might know your stuff backwards and forwards, but if you could demonstrate a lack of character, people will absolutely not buy from you. Or it's going to be a much, much harder sell. We'll just put it that way. For example, I have an awesome bride who is way out of my league and just fantastic gal. And if I started talking about my girlfriend, like, hey, I got to rush off this thing here. So I got to have a date with my girlfriend. You're like, is he talking about the same person, or is he like being a super creep right now? Right. I don't have a girlfriend. I have my bride who I'm hopelessly in love with. But the thing is, you might start questioning my character and like, yeah, he's teaching good stuff, but dude, I don't want anything to do with him. I just like that's plutonium. I don't want to be any part of that. Right. So this is why you have to be careful. And look, I see a lot of people who go to networking events and they get plastered. They get rip roaring drunk and they're hitting on different people in the crowd. It's like, dude, this isn't a singles bar, right? Like, come on, man. This is a networking thing. Okay. And people start to get very confused and they're starting to demonstrate their true character. And this is where, again, and unfortunately, like this is where I see people, especially if they don't have a good relationship with alcohol. Like, I just generally don't drink at those sorts of things. Not because I have a bad relationship with alcohol. I just don't. I want to be on my A game, especially if someone's going to be bringing me a 6 or 7 figure business, right? Or a 6 or 7 figure client, right? That could be a game changer for me. And if I'm, 4 glasses of wine in, that's not going to bode well for me, right? My character might be coming into question, and I don't want that. And I generally have rules around drinking anyway. I don't generally drink unless it's Saturday and my wife is with me. If my bride's not with me, I generally don't drink. And I can't have anything going on the next day because, let's face it, I'm 53 and recovery time is just significantly longer. Right? That's what happens. Like when we're 18, we can digest plastic, and all of a sudden along the way, we just stop being able to do these things. So I'm just saying, like, these are the sorts of things, these are the sorts of rules that I have in place that are good for me. They don't necessarily be good for you, but I want you to think like that. I don't want ever my character ever being in question. So there's other areas, and I think these two things, this competence and character, are the fruits of the rest of the two trees that share a symbiotic root system. And the rest of the fruit that are developed from competence and character are caring, confidence, commitment, communication, and consistency. Again, have you ever heard the phrase, people don't care what people don't care what you know until they know how much you care? That's because there's caring trust. People need to know that you care, that you actually have caring more than just the simple transaction. Or are you confident in what you're saying? Again, if I came on here and said, well, I'm going to teach you just maybe a couple things that I know about networking. No, I was in BNI, which is Business Networking International. And if you're not familiar with it, it's a wonderful organization. I was in that organization for 14 years. Ivan Meisner's a friend of mine, and we're not super close, but he endorsed my first and my third book, and he was the founder of BNI. And I really, really appreciated what BNI did for me, and even what Ivan Meisner did for me. He was just a really, really good guy, and I have some really authentic relationships. And I'm not saying that to name drop. I'm saying that because I got so much more confidence in my business just because being around people like that. But again, if I came to you and said, well, yeah, maybe I could do a good job for you, I'm not really sure. I mean, I'll give it a try, though. You'd be like, dude, I'm not going to spend a lot of money with you trying to figure it out. Right? I want to know that you're confident that you could reasonably, assuredly solve my problems. Right? It's the same thing in networking. How committed are you? Like, how much commitment am I going to get from you? Am I going to get all of you or just some of you? Commitment, trust is a big deal. Communication. Not just how you communicate, but how often you communicate. That's a big deal. And I will tell you this, in case I don't make this point later, most networking people are horrific at following up. And again, what they do is they wind up, I cleaned my desk off for this, so I think I might have shot myself in the foot here, but I usually keep a stack of business cards. Oh, it's, I moved it over there. Sorry, it's out of reach and my headphones are on. But the thing is usually keep a stack of business cards that are like this thick that just sit on my desk, and I use it as a prop. And I say, does everybody have this stack of business cards? Now, a lot of people don't give out business cards anymore. But the thing is that, like, where are these people even from? Do you even remember who these people are? And if you haven't followed up with people after your networking, chances are you're not going to follow up with them all, and you've just wasted everyone's time. So you have to be consistent in your communication, right? Which comes to the last part, is consistency. How much are you, how consistent are you? Are you consistently late? Right? That's not good. Like, that really can erode people's trust. So this is really the 7 areas of trust. Let me just go back to make sure I'm hitting the comments section here. Let's see. We've got Anna, West Coast and Vancouver into the U.S. Excellent. Um, Kamara is saying true. Okay, and uncertainty. I'm not sure what you mean. Um, gave me. Let's see here. Anna is. Oh, I'm sorry. Anna is saying hello. University professor switching to private ventures, business owner, sports coach, writer, demographic specialist, and DIYer extraordinaire. Okay, it sounds like it. Sounds like you're hitting it all, Anna. Excellent. Very good. I'm not sure what you mean, Eugene, by uncertainty. So I apologize. Maybe you can be a little bit more clear. So here's the thing that is, I just want you to understand this is that these 7 areas around trust, you may be lacking in one of these areas, and you have to, like, you can't, if you're lacking in any one of these areas, people may not trust you and you may not know why. And because they don't trust you in some of these areas, like I was consistently late everywhere I went for a really long period of time. And people still today, now I would like to say that I fixed that problem probably better than 15 years ago. Now, am I late? I might be late a couple minutes. Like I'm talking 2 to 3 minutes, right? But I'm not like 15, 20, 30 minutes like I was. And the thing was, because that was me at some period of time, I will always and forever be that in their mind. Oh, Mark, he's always late. Oh, no, I'm not. I've worked hard to change that. And unfortunately, that I've poisoned the well for too many people because I was late too many times, right? Now that's not me anymore, but that was me. So you've got to understand, like, sometimes you may have some real work to do to patch the trust. And sometimes it just isn't going to get fixed. And that's just something you're just going to have to move on from. So Eugene is saying, I mean, uncertainty is not good in networking and communications. Absolutely right. That's absolutely correct, Eugene. So you've got to make sure that you're consistent, you're confident, you're committed, you're demonstrating caring, all of those things. Okay. I just want you to, this is a phrase I heard a long time ago. The value of your net worth is directly related to the value of your network. And I would say this is so incredibly true. And it's something I experienced just fairly recently. There was someone who, I was looking to get a non-standardized loan for a part of my real estate portfolio that I hold. Most of my money comes in through real estate. And it was interesting because the type of loan that I was looking to get, I have lots of equity, but the cash flow on those particular properties wasn't great. But so I went to my network and I asked a couple of people that I know. I'm like, hey, who do you know that's kind of doing some, non-standardized lending? And because my bank isn't going to want to do the type of loan that I want. And this one guy says, his name's Walter, and he said, Walter goes, oh, dude, I got 2 guys right out of the gate, right? Well, one of them can do exactly what I needed. The other guy wasn't the best fit, but I'm going to use him for something else later on. But the thing was, like, he instantly knew someone right away. Now, I contacted several other people, but because my network was set up so well, I'm going to be able to access about $750,000 in equity pretty quickly, right? So it's pretty interesting that I was able to do that, and I'm going to pay off some other debt and move some other stuff around, but that's really what the value of that is. Otherwise, I never would have been able to have access to that. So I want you to start thinking about these things when you're starting to look at your network and really start referencing that in relation to your network. So let me just hit the agenda real fast. We've got a lot of things to cover still. So first and foremost, I'm going to hit the Viper framework, which is the methodology for anybody who is here, who is a business owner. I think you're going to respect and you're going to get a lot out of that. Then we're going to talk about the 4 core functions that every business has to have. We're going to specifically talk about lead generation, and then we're going to get into the actual networking and then some success strategies. So we got a lot more to cover here in the next roughly 45 minutes. So we're going to be talking about is a strategic approach to managing your life and your business. So if your networking is not working, and if you're a business owner, this next section here is going to be more relevant to you. But even if you're not a business owner, that's okay. I still want you to be paying attention to this because there's a couple elements in here that you might be lacking that really can help you and benefit you in terms of being more effective in your networking. Even if you're working for a bank or you're doing work for someone else, this is something that is going to absolutely help you out. So let's get to it. The Viper framework And just to let you know, it's actually what I've written about in the Time Wealthy Advantage, which is this book back here, if you're looking at the screen. I'm not here to promote that or sell that. If you want to get access to it, you can find it on Amazon. If you're outside the U.S., if you're inside the U.S., you can go to strategicboardroom.com. But again, the reason I'm bringing that up is because this is where the Viper framework comes. Where I wrote about the Viper framework. It's in that book. So the Viper method is an acronym for vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. Okay, I'll let you take some notes on that. So, vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. This is it's a just want you to understand that this is a top-down approach to organizing your life and your business, especially if you are a business owner. So again, it organizes your life and your business, and you're going to see how here in just a hot second. Vision is where it all starts. Again, it says top-down. So vision is where it starts, and vision has two components. It is comprised of both personal vision and of business vision. Personal vision is just basically when you start to think about, all right, what does your life look like from a day-to-day perspective if it wasn't defined by income generation? Think about that for a hot second. Think about, okay, if I really didn't have to worry about income, right? Not that I'm this super baller, or even if you did, let's say you woke up with 30 million pounds or 30 million euro or $30 million in your bank account tomorrow. Okay, fine, go buy the stuff that you want. But in most countries, that's not going to be a lot of money, right? Like, you're not going to be set for life. You're still going to have to be a good steward of that money, even though you may still, you may change your standard of living a little bit. But if you change it too much, you're going to be back right where you were in within a few years. That's like lottery winners. Usually, statistically, I think it's close to 75 or 80% of them are back where they were or worse off within 5 years because they didn't understand how to be good stewards of their money. So I just want you to think about this from a personal vision perspective. And personal vision is going to ask you a very simple question. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? What do you want your life to look like if it wasn't defined by income generation? Like, what do you want your relationships to look like? What do you want your relationship with your spouses to look like, right? Like, or your children or your friends or your family, right? That's what personal vision does. Business vision, on the other hand, asks you, okay, cool, that's where you want to go. That's what you've defined. Now, how are we going to get there? That's what business vision does. And the interesting thing, as I want you to consider their personal vision, right? And I hear this a lot, especially from younger folks, like, yeah, let me make 50 grand a month and then I'll worry about that better life thing. What's interesting is I've sat in many masterminds and conferences with people who are doing pretty well, like keeping 6 to 7 figures per month. I mean, I'm talking about not revenue. That's what they're making. 6 to 7 figures per month, and they're miserable. And they're absolutely miserable because they've never figured out how to define that personal vision component. Because the reality is this, the danger in creating a business vision before you create a personal vision is that you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. So I want you to take a hot second and think about what you would like. What are just some things you look forward to? What does your relationships look like? What's your vision for your marriage? What's your vision for your children? What's your vision for your relationship with your friends, your God? Like, the things that truly matter to you. Take the time and actually define it. And this is a great time of year to do that, especially in the beginning of the year. So on the other side of this, let's get to the business vision side of things. The business vision is defined with 3 C's. The business vision is defined with core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Now, I get hired as a strategist to go into lots of different companies, okay? And when I'm brought in and when I start asking them questions, and I'm looking for them to answer questions around these 3 areas, okay? Core purpose, core values, and client avatar. And invariably, there are holes in almost all 3 of them, and usually all 3. And when these things are not well defined, the company is struggling with their hiring, with the people that are there to do the work, with their employees, with their company culture. They don't have enough leads. They're having trouble attracting the right type of clients. They're just not effective. and they're really not even sure what their mission is. So having these three things defined and defined well, not only are going to help you as a business owner, if that's what you have, and I know there's several business owners here. What I'm saying is the thing is with having all three of these things defined, whether you're a business owner or not, it is absolutely going to be critical in your networking. I got a question here from CJ. This is, I think, is a really, really good question. So, and by the way, as you guys and gals have questions, just go ahead and plug them in here, and I will make sure that I hit them before I get too far along, if I have a natural break. So CJ asks, how soon do you recommend following up right after a networking event / meeting someone? So here's the thing. I used to do this, and this was a little old school, but I will tell you it was so massively effective. What I used to do is, back in the day when someone would hand me a card, let's say I was at a networking event, and at the networking event, someone would say to me, okay, hey, are you, like, hey, here's your card, blah, blah, blah. I would carry with me in my vehicle a stack of note cards, with envelopes, and you can buy them at a local Walgreens or, wherever, Five and Dime, wherever you shop. And I would keep a roll of stamps with me, and I would fill out hey, it was so good meeting you at XYZ event. And I would write it right then. And I would not stick my business card in there. I would just say Mark, and then maybe in parentheses from Strategic Boardroom or whatever company that I was representing at the time, right? That I would do that immediately before I left, and then make sure by the time I would drop those in the post office, either on my way home or on my way into work the next day. So I'm talking pretty immediately. I would say at a minimum, you need to be contacting these people again within the next day, and I would say next business day, fine. If it's Friday and you send it on Monday, but I like getting that stuff sent out immediately. So you can even schedule it, type it out. Hey, it was so great meeting you. And again, what I'll do, I'm going to go off a little off script here, but what I would do, I don't have, oh, here it is. So I usually keep, I don't know if you can see, in fact, I'm just going to hold this up here. So I carry one of these generally right here in my jacket, right? So I've got a pretty good size, right? So I got my business cards here, right? Nice and thick. And I would have my pen. So CJ, if you handed me this card, for example, I'm going to pull this out. What do you think I'm going to do with this? Right? I'm going to take and I'm going to write. Hey, is it okay if I ask if I write on this? It's important that you ask them, especially in different cultures. And I've got lots of those of you who know, like we've got several people from Israel here. We've got several people from the UK. If you're networking, there are different cultures that view business cards very differently. So I always will ask for permission before I write on their card. So I might say, hey, is it okay if I write in your card? You're like, oh, absolutely, right? In Japan, it's a big deal. It's actually very offensive, from what I've heard, right, to write on their card. So you always ask. So I'd say, okay, cool. CJ, right? So I might say the context in which we met. So I'm putting the month. So I'm putting January 26, right? January 26. So month and year. The day isn't really all that relevant unless you're literally networking every single day. But even then, it's really not that relevant. But it gives me a context in terms of where I'm meeting. And then I'm going to write networking, online networking thing, right? So online networking. So now I have the context and how we met. And then if we were talking about, spider monkeys, it's because it's a weird thing. I'm right. Well, spider monkeys. That's going to give me something that's going to remind me who you are. Oh, that was the dude who was talking about spider monkeys. That was hilarious, right? And that's it. That's all I'm doing. I'm not making a list. I'm, putting a whole thing on here. I'm not writing a book, but I am keeping, this is why I keep a marker with me so I can keep track of these things. Some people do it differently. Some people like taking photos of it. Listen, I don't care how you do it, but I want to make sure that you have a mechanism of following people back up with people after the fact. Because if you don't, I'm telling you, like, the next day is going to come, the next day, and next thing you know, you've got a card or a contact and you have not followed up with them. Okay. So my point is what's the mechanism that you have to make sure that you're going to follow up with these folks afterwards. And I don't mean like, oh, well, I always do. Great. How are you going to follow back up with them in 3 weeks? And then 3 weeks after that? And then 6 weeks after that? And then 2 weeks after that? Does that make sense? This is why we're going to talk about CRM systems here, customer resource management systems. But whatever that is, you've got to have a mechanism. And I don't care if you write it on the back of a paper towel, and that's where you keep your list. But you have to have a mechanism to work from that list. So really, really good question. But I follow up with them right away. Ashley's asking a question. Ashley. Oh, hey, Ashley. I recognize your name too. You just joined. Let's see here. You joined something. I just remember your name is being very familiar. Hi, Mark. I'm a project manager in training. I'm building a business as an independent contractor. Excellent. I am having a difficult time identifying my niche and quality network connections. I meet people and connect easily as I worked in the service industry, high volume of connections. I am struggling to identify quality connections and networks. So here, this may make more sense here, Ashley, when we're going to talk about client avatar here in just a second. Okay. So, we're going to do that here. I'm going to get to that here in just a second. So Anna's asking me a question, or she's saying best method to transfer old school follow-up mailing lists, converting to electronic. Let me get overwhelmed switching Excel address to AI. So what I like to do on this, I'm going to talk about this in the, Anna, I'm going to talk about this when we get to infrastructure. This will make more sense when we get to infrastructure. Okay. If I don't answer the question, bring that back up because that's a really good question. I try to email them after a networking event within a day or two. Once I meet them at a one-on-one meeting and chat, I put them into an Excel spreadsheet and then put notes in there too. Yep. On what we spoke about and how we refer each business, this seems to work well for me. And Sarah, if that works for you, don't change it. Don't change it. Oh, hello, Clarence. Good to have you here. Funding consultant in the real estate and financial industries. Excellent. I love that note cards idea. Yeah, it works out really, really well. It really does, Sarah. Okay, so let's talk about the 3 C's of business vision, and this should make a little bit more sense. All right. So the core purpose, core values, and client avatar. The core purpose of your business, this is what business that you're in and what problems that you specifically solve. And it's really important that you be highly specific. If you just say, I'm in the real estate business, that tells me nothing, right? If you say I'm in the real estate business in Florida, okay, that still doesn't tell me very much. Are you in residential real estate? What city are you in? What part of the city do you really like to work with? What, do you like to buy and sell, or do you like to do property management? And for those of you who are like, well, I just kind of dabble in all 3. Okay, well, here's the problem is that when you're dabbling in all 3, how committed are you to any one of those 3? Remember where we talked about trust and commitment? Right? Well, it seems like the only thing you might be committed to is making money, not necessarily being committed to your job. And this is the difficulty that I see with people who are these serial entrepreneurs. And they put out there all these different things. And no disrespect to anybody who's done that. I get it. I was that guy, and I did all sorts of things. I was a house flipper. I was in long-term rentals. I did property management. I did fractional bookkeeping and accounting type work. I also did currency exchange, currency trading, right? Like it was a day trader. I had all these things going on, and guess how many of them I was making money on? None of them. I wasn't making any money consistently on any of them because I was so fragmented and all over the place. I was, and not to mention, no one really knew how much they could trust me to be really good in one area. And it wasn't until I really got focused on specifically on real estate and specifically on long-term rentals that things started to take off for me. So people say, oh, I want to keep my options open. I get that, but it's costing you a lot of traction, especially traction in one specific area. So I really want you to be dialed into one core purpose and really own that core purpose. So what specific business are you in? What problems do you specifically solve? Pull the rest of them into neutral. Get this other one, the one that's most likely, maybe it's one of the most interesting to you. Maybe it's the one that's most interesting and you can do the best in because you can really niche down, but be really specific in your core purpose. The next one is your core values. What matters to you about this business and how would the world be worse off if you went out of business? And this is really, really critical because your core values, again, especially if it's your business, your core values are really an extension of you because your business is an extension of you. So if you start thinking about this in terms of your core values, like think about it. Like Sarah or Clarence, for example, Sarah, let's say, Sarah, have you ever had a friend that you had to let go because they were heading down a path that you couldn't follow? Right? Like we've all had those folks and it sucks. But the reality is that because you valued something so highly that you were willing to take action on, that was a core value. Again, I value peanut M&Ms. Someone breaks into my office and says, "Give me all your peanut M&Ms." I'm like, dude, take them, right? Like, because I value them, but I don't value them enough to go to war over, right? But someone threatens my family, I'm going to war, and it's going to end very badly for them, right? Because it's a core value. That's why I'm saying, like, I want you to think of what your core values are. What are the things that you're willing to get up off the couch to quote unquote go to war over because they're such high value to you, right? So let's see here. Eugene is saying, I think you need some script to convert those mailing lists. It could be written with AI. It could be, but give me just a hot second because I've got some other ideas that could be that could be different for that. All right, could work out differently. Sarah says, yes, we've had to break up with friends. The older I get, the less garbage I'm willing. Yeah, exactly. I'm 53. My tolerance for nonsense is like at an all-time low. So, but I'm pretty forgiving. But I'm just telling you, I get it. My BS meter is just I don't deal with it. I don't want drama. If someone isn't in alignment with my core values, let them go. And as much as that sucks, Sarah, right? But that's where it's just, you just don't have to have like this big to do. It's just, you stop watering that grass. You stop reaching out to them. You just stop nurturing that relationship, right? But this is the same thing that you have to do with your core values when it comes to the core values of your business. All right. Think about that in your core values. So we talked about core purpose. We talked about core values. Now let's talk about your client avatar. And this is going to be a really, really important one. Many people I know do not have a well-defined avatar. Who specifically and ideally do you want to serve? Who specifically and ideally do you want to serve? That's going to be really important to consider when you are coming up with your client avatar. And these are the people who again, this could be an individual person, or it could be a couple. It could be a team, right? A sales team, a sports team. It could be a soccer league, an American football league, right? Whatever it is, it could be something along those lines, right? Or it could be a board, members of a board, right? Think about those sorts of people, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be a who. It could be who's, right? It could be a team. But I want you to think about these people in terms of geographics, demographics, and psychographics. Where, geographics is where they are. Demographics is who they are. And think about it. Are they married? Are they single? Do they have kids? Are they married? Are they divorced? Are they old? Are they young? Are they educated? Are they not educated? Like, these are the things that you need to start to think about in terms of their demographics. And finally, there's psychographics. And these are how they think and how they buy. When you're thinking about psychographics, this one is really important. Remember early on, I was asking you about, like business owners, specifically coffee shop owners, specifically contractors. Do I work with people outside of those industries? Yes, I do. I absolutely do. I just didn't mention all of them, right? I mentioned just some of them that are in this specific demographic and the psychographic in terms of how they think and how they buy. In terms of psychographics, I want you to think of ALIA, ALIA, and that is their aspirations, their attitudes, their lifestyles, their interests, and their aspirations and goals. Just getting ahead of myself there. So their attitudes, their lifestyles, their interests, and their aspirations. So what is their attitudes on life? What's their attitudes on politics? What's their attitudes on different things, right? And that's going to be important for you. Like, what's their attitude on education, right? If they're always looking for education, like, oh yeah, how cool, I've got a guy that I can send you to, right? Or, hey, I'm looking for someone who maybe is looking to learn how to network better, or maybe doesn't understand financial literacy that well as a business owner, right? That's something I might be able to help them with, right? What are their attitudes on various things? What is their lifestyle? Are they a jet-setting 20-something, or are they more like kind of a homebody? Are they an empty nester who spends a lot of time with their grandkids? Or are they an empty nester who wants to go out and travel? What's their lifestyle? What are their interests? Are they into NASCAR? Are they into European football? Are they into, World Cup, whatever? Like, these are the sorts of things that are interesting to them. And what are their aspirations and their goals? And that's probably the most important one, although they're all important. But if you can understand someone's goals, wouldn't it make sense that you and your networking can say, hey, if I know that Anna is trying to connect to people on this type of, is trying to connect to this type of business, and that's going to help her reach her goals, because I know her goal is to leave her corporate job, and so she can do this thing full time. I'm like, okay, that would be important for me to know that as her aspiration, wouldn't it? So I could help her reach her goals. Do you think that I would forever be on her Christmas card list if I brought her enough referrals so she could hit her goals? That's important for you to know. It's important for you to know for you, but it's really important for you to know of your networking folks. So let me ask you something. When you network with people, when you're networking with people, how many times are you asking them, hey, do you have any goals set up for this year? Right? And if they don't, say, well, you think about that, and let's connect again over coffee, or let's connect again over Zoom sometime. Wouldn't that be a great way to have conversation and seed the soil for future conversations? To ask them what their interests are, to ask them what their lifestyles are, right? Like, hey, do you travel much? Do you read much? I'm an avid reader. I read on average 10 books, I read 42 books last year, which is a book about every 10 days. So if someone was going to ask me, hey, Mark, what are you reading right now? I would happily tell them, right? I'm reading a book about sales secrets from someone who used to be known as the Mayflower Madam. And it's a fantastic sales book, right? But I'm just saying, like, these are the sorts of things that people would want to know. And I would want to know about my avatar. So then I can convey that to other people within my network. Is this making sense? Like, these are all different things that I would want to work with, that I would want people to know about me, that I would want to know about my avatar. So again, in terms of the 3 C's of business vision, it comes down once again to core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Okay. So, let's see here. I've got lots of questions here. All right. Clarence is saying, I forgot to mention that I'm in the metro Atlanta, Georgia area. I fund projects and businesses nationwide. I'm enjoying this webinar. Okay. I love that last piece about enjoying the webinar. No, that's great. Metro Atlanta. Hang on one second, guys. Sorry, I turned on a space heater in this office because it's chilly out today. And for some reason it's chilly in my office. I'm again in the Midwest, so it's a chilly one. Let's see. We've got Anna saying, yes, researching conversion methods in AI, however, must maintain a strict time budgeting. Understood. Yep. And there's ways to do that if they're already in Excel. One of the things that I was going to recommend, like, I use Pipedrive for my CRM. Now, Pipedrive does have a cost. So if you're trying to get them, you can actually format the list and import that into many different types of CRMs. And the different types of CRMs, and again, Pipedrive is one of them, but I'll bring up some others here in just a second. Eugene, yeah, I just reasoned out loud. Mark has another idea, and it could be more suitable for you. Yep, all good. Thank you, Eugene. Hey, listen, I'm not the only one with answers here. You guys have far more ideas than I do. And Anna says yes, and I agree with you, Anna. Whatever you're saying yes to, I agree to. So, all right, let's get to it. Let's keep the ball rolling. So is this making sense? So what I wanted you to think about, I'm going to move on. We're going to move on to the 4 core functions of business, which is the second agenda item. But here's what I want you to think about. Where do you feel that you're solid in the 3 C's of business vision? And where do you feel like you need a little bit of work? Where do you feel like you need to work on all 3? And that's okay. But where do you feel you're most solid out of these 3? And go ahead and put that in the chat where you feel you're the most solid, and which ones you probably need, maybe it might be the weakest, where you might need to work on a little bit. So go ahead and type that into the chat. I would love to know where you guys are at so you know what you need to work on. All right. All right, let's move on to 4 core functions of business. The 4 core functions of business are going to be true for every single business. And that involves the lead generation piece, the sales piece, the operational function, and of course the accounting function. And your customer's journey, hold on a second, I got to bring this back up. And your customer's journey through your business happens in this order. Okay. So in the four core functions of business, when you're looking at the lead generation, the sales, the operations, and the accounting, I want you to think about that. I want you to think about the four core functions is that your customer's journey happens in this order: lead generation, then sales, then operations and accounting. So the lead generation function, it lets the world know, excuse me, it lets the world know what you're doing through a variety of marketing approaches. Okay, well, what are those variety of marketing approaches? Well, there's a lot of different marketing approaches. You've got outbound type lead generation, and outbound lead generation is like interruption marketing, right? It's the billboard ads, it's the YouTube ads, it's the commercials on television, and so forth. Then you've got inbound marketing, which is like your SEO, where people are searching for you and they're looking, and this is where like your search engine optimization is kind of a big deal. So that's inbound marketing. Direct response is where you're giving people a very specific thing to do. Like, hey, if you're interested, type in the word baloney in the comment section, and then I'll respond back to you. That's direct response, where you're getting them to take a very specific response. Or click on here and fill in your information, right? That's direct response. Networking is obviously what we're talking about today. That is obviously part of lead generation. You've got things where you can form alliances with people or join ventures with different companies, do press releases, and of course, affiliate type marketing, things like that. But when it comes to networking, which is the reason that we're here, here's the reality. It's also known as word of mouth marketing. And there is a universal truth to the word of mouth marketing. And that universal truth is that it's always working. And here's the question. Is it working for you or is it working against you? That is the real truth. And you have to stop and think about how people are viewing you when it comes to your word of mouth marketing. All right. So when it comes to this, let's see here. The new gold rush is for attention. So if your networking is not working, I want you to start to think about this, that networking has to be part of an overall strategy of owning the mental real estate of other people. I don't mind networking being part of a strategy. So let me just say this. I don't mind networking being part of a strategy. Here's the problem with networking though, is networking is not scalable. It's very difficult to know when your referrals are going to like, oh, well, I did 30 units of networking this week and I got 25 units in return of referrals. And then I did 60 units of referrals this week. Is not going to necessarily translate into 50 referrals next week. It doesn't work that way. It's just one of those things where you're just constantly tilling the soil and eventually crops will come up. So it needs to be part of an overall strategy, not the strategy. Because when things get slow, like right now, things in the United States in terms of the market has slowed down. And I've had a lot of conversations with different realtors all of a sudden because guess what? They're not as busy. And now they're trying to figure out how to get busier. Well, the problem is you should have been tilling the soil earlier and more frequently with people who are always going to be buyers. Right now, there's people who are buyers that weren't buyers before. And the reason why things have slowed down is because there's not as many buyers. Well, yeah, it's because they can be more discerning. Like they can take their time and they've kept their powder dry. I am probably more of a buyer now than I was in the previous 4 or 5 years. Why is that? Because people are becoming more desperate because they used to literally put a property on the market and they barely got the sign hammered into the yard before they had 3 offers waiting for them at the office. That is not the case right now. I mean, it's not a buyer's market quite yet, but it is definitely slowed down. And that's very true in a lot of different markets. And I work with a lot of different people in the real estate world, and that is very true. So when I say it's part of an overall strategy of owning the mental real estate, this is the other side of the equation when I was talking about not getting too bogged down in the, or too fragmented rather, in too many different areas. If you're like, oh, well, I sell insurance and I sell cars and I also sell, essential oils on the weekends. Like it's very fragmented and people don't know what they can trust. And that's like, well, what mental real estate are you owning of those people that are in your tribe, that are in your circle? So this is where it comes down. You have to recognize that referral-based marketing and networking is part of overall that strategy. So you have to figure out how do you do this. So first and foremost, this is something that I learned in the BNI world, and it's called the VCP process, is that a lot of times you have to recognize that people, when you first get into someone's purview, like right now, if I were to ask all of you right now for a referral, not for a sale, but you to refer someone to me, I would probably suspect that I wouldn't get very many. You know why? Like in the very beginning, I asked you for referrals. Guess what? Not one of you was willing to send me one. You know why? Because I was barely visible to you. I was barely visible. I haven't even had an opportunity to really demonstrate any credibility, right? Or any competence whatsoever. You didn't trust me. You wouldn't have no reason to trust me. So unless of course you've seen me before, but even then, right, I didn't have enough credibility. Okay. Too many people try to go from visibility to profitability way too fast. So again, the whole concept here is, if your networking is not working, are you trying to sell to your network? Do you understand what I mean? Like, it would be like if I'm trying to say like, oh, cool, Anna is messaging a lot. Hey, Anna, do you want to buy my stuff? You know, Clarence, do you want to buy my book? Ashley, do you, Kamara, do you want to buy some coaching from me or work with me as a consultant? No, I'm trying to sell too quickly. And I will tell you this, and I know this is going to sound a little sexist, and it's not meant to be. It's just what I have seen overall. And this is also based on data, is that women tend to be a little bit more relational. Men tend to be more transactional, where they can go through the VCP process a little faster than women. And it's not always the case, but I'm just saying generally that is the case. Women tend to say, dude, slow up a little bit. Like let me get to know you a second, right? Men will tend to be very transactional. They can go, oh, you have a widget and I have dollars. Let me give you the dollars and I'll take the widget, right? Like that tends to be the case, but that's not always the case. There are plenty of women who are transactional, plenty of men who are more relational. I tend to be more relational. I want to know people a little bit better. Okay. But this is what I'm saying. Like if for people who try to skip the visibility, going straight to profitability, all that creates is irritability. So I want you to remember that it does take time to develop that credibility, but it also takes in recognizing that you're not selling to your network. Yes, you might end up doing business with your network, but you want to tee this up where you can say, okay, like, hey, like, I'm not necessarily selling to you, but this is the type of client that I'm working with, right? And sometimes that does work with you. That could be you, right? Great presence, right? Hold on a second. Here we go. Ashley says, I think of business like a buffet. If a buffet has all different kinds of dishes, then nothing is going to be truly great. In comparison, a restaurant that specializes in a specific dish will get better and more popular. That is, I love that analogy. That is so incredibly true. And Anna agrees. Kamara says, oh, I got it. Do not sell to your network. Okay, right. So it's not that you can't sell to your network, because your network will buy from you. And that's also how you demonstrate your competence, right? But you can't, like, if you're going into a networking event trying to sell people in the room, you're going to be known as that person. Oh, there's that guy, right? Like, don't make eye contact, right? That's not what you want to be known for. You want people to go, oh my gosh, they always listen to me. Again, it goes back to, again, one of my favorite books, this one here, Dale Carnegie, right? For those of you who know, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Fantastic book. And it's, again, if you want to be interesting to people, be interested. Ask them questions and then listen. And ask them more questions and say, oh, that's really interesting. What got you into this line of work? Right? Hey, tell me something, Kamara. If you were going to change something about your industry, what would be one thing that you would love to change about your industry? And then you listen. And guess what? If Kamara is talking about her industry, things that she dislikes, it's probably a struggle she's having in her own business. And you might now understand one of her goals, right? Does that make sense? If you were to ask her and say, well, what type of client would be a good referral for you? Like, who would be someone that you would really enjoy to work with, right? Or tell me, I don't understand, how does your business make money? Like, how does that work? People love to talk about their business. They love to talk about clients that they've helped, and how they can truly help people. Like, people love that, especially avid networkers. And you guys are a chatty bunch, right? So you sell. That's a great takeaway for me. Okay, I'm not sure which one, but I just want you to think about this. So when you start to ask them, like, hey, what got you into this line of work to begin with? What are some things, again, that you could, again, what are some problems that you solve for some people? Like, you can start to ask and be really interested in what they say. And that's what Dale Carnegie talked about, is if you want to be interesting to people, be interested. Let them talk. And you would be surprised at how much more effective in your networking you're going to be. But this is the other thing is too, is again, when you get back to and if I was to ask 5 people that are closest to you, what is it you do? And if they came up with 5 different answers, that's not their problem. That's your fault. Because like right now, I asked my son, what is it you think that I do? And he's like, well, you're an author. I'm like, yeah. Do you think I only write books though? And he's like, well, no. Now, granted, he's 17, but he's like, no, you talk to people a lot. I'm like, well, yeah. Right. And my son's like horrible at describing things to begin with. But he eventually got to the point that he's like, well, you kind of coach people, right? I'm like, yeah, that's fair enough, right? But overall, I'm a strategist, right? So do I use the tools of a coach? Sure. Do I write books? Absolutely, right? But it's all for the purpose of educating and applying strategy to that education. I bring them to the classroom, and then I move them into the boardroom. And when we're in the boardroom, we apply strategy, and that's what we do, right? And sometimes when they're in crisis, we move to the war room, and the war room is like, okay, like, we're not being nice now. Like all hands on deck. We're not, niceties sometimes have to go out the window, and we've got to do some really dirty things. Not dirty, unethical, but like cutting all the fluff, that sort of stuff, right? That's what I'm talking about. So I just want you to think about that. If I were to ask the 5 people closest to you, right, in terms of, here you are, you're in a networking situation, what is it that you do? That might give you an indication that you're way too fragmented. All right. So again, it comes back to owning their mental real estate. And it's also really, really important that you be divisive and take a stand on what you have to do. And again, it's really easy to think of politics, especially American politics right now, which is a complete disaster. But hear me out. If you have to stand for something, which means you will exclude some people, and that is okay. Because again, when your marketing is magnetic marketing means that you're going to attract, but it also means that you don't attract everything. If I put, a magnet over some coins, most coins are not made out of non-ferrous metals. Fair enough? So they're not going to be magnetic. They're not going to attract coins, right? They're not going to attract copper. They're not going to attract silver or gold, right? But the thing is, magnets also don't attract everything, but they also repel. So you got to think about that in terms of being magnetic, because sometimes you're going to attract some people, sometimes you're not going to attract people at all, and sometimes you're going to repel people. And that's okay, because you don't need thousands probably to change your life. You probably only need a few hundred, maybe even only a few dozen, right? We got some questions in here. Let's see here. Sarah, I presented on a global team call for corporate with Tutor Doctor before I sold it. And I spoke about what I called networking glitter. Throw that stuff everywhere and see it stick. It's like a networking cobweb where you meet someone who introduces you to someone else, who introduced you to someone else, etc. I found so many friends in networking events by doing this. Yeah, and I don't have a problem casting a wide net when it comes to my network, but I am a little bit more discerning in terms of who I will spend time networking with, right? Like, I don't necessarily want to go networking at the diner at 3 a.m. if that's not my avatar, right? Because generally you're going to get a lot of drunk people and people who've vomited all over themselves. So again, I probably would be a little discerning, but again, in terms of you, Sarah, I mean, if wherever your avatar happens to land, again, or wherever they exist, I wouldn't have a problem with casting a wider net, right? Anna says, I'm a physicist. Oh, okay. Well, that is pretty specific. That's impressive. Okay. Just finished exams on electromagnetism. Okay. So I'm Truly hitting a nerve for you. All right, very good. But again, this is again about being absolutely magnetic and really truly attracting the people you want to work with. And the other thing about this is I want you to ask for the referrals. Look, notice what I did from the very beginning. What did I do from the very beginning of this call? I asked for the referral. I asked you specifically, coffee shop owners, contractors, specifically HVAC owners, general contractors, especially people who might be struggling with profitability, or they might be struggling with employee turnover, or they've got employee problems. Those are generally problems that I can help with as a strategist. And it's not just about making more money. It's about helping them have a better business that runs more profitably, and it doesn't take all of their time to do it, right? Training them to be business owners, not just being self-employed. Those are very important ways to carve that out, right? So, but ask for the referral. And that's what I'm saying for you is don't be afraid to ask for the referral. Like, hey, look, if you don't mind me asking, the type of people that I'm looking for, I know you mentioned that you look for people who, let's say that they're looking to trade up their car, like they've owned a car. And like for me, I have a piece of crap that I have been driving for a while. I bought it. So it's a 2010 HHR. It's literally got 250,000 miles on it. And I spent like $2,500 on it, right? Now you might be thinking, well, why are you telling us this? Well, because I don't really care about cars. Like cars are not my thing. I am way more into other types of things. I like books. I like, like I just realized one of my books is actually worth over $400 on eBay. And I was like, there's no way. And I looked and it is because the book's out of print right now. So I was like, oh, so I need to wrap this up. And it was kind of interesting. And I have another book that's actually worth, if it's in mint condition, it could be worth $2,000. I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy, right? But the thing is, I like books like that. So do I collect them? Not really. I actually read them. But my point is that there's different things that I spend my money on. And I want you to think about this. If I was someone who's looking to upgrade my current vehicle, you might say, hey, Mark, I know you mentioned that you're not a car guy, but if you ever are looking to buy a car, I'd love for you to give me a shot to maybe take a look at it. Okay, great, right? Not necessarily selling to me, but you can ask for the referral or ask, hey, if you know of anybody who happens to be maybe looking to upgrade their car, right? I'd love to treat them right. Just send them to me, right? And then, of course, you also want to lead with massive amounts of value. And bringing value to them and bringing value to your network is how you will differentiate yourself. It's bringing that value and saying, it's something that most people don't know is, like, for example, one of the things I talk about is the difference between a coach and a consultant. And for me, I think coaches, most people who call themselves coaches shouldn't. They just shouldn't because they're not good at it. And it's not that they don't give good advice, but in my world, I think a coach very specifically holds other people accountable. Has anybody ever been in a sports team, like maybe in school or anything along those lines? I'll tell you what, if you didn't show up for practice, the next day, just plan on running a lot until they get tired. That's generally what you would be told, right? And well, that's what I'm saying. Like a coach would hold you accountable. If you didn't show up, you would get a phone call. If you haven't been doing your work, you would be held accountable, right? And it's saying, yes, that's exactly right. Like this is what a lot of coaches, I feel, and if you're a coach, I'm not trying to call you out. I'm just saying there's a lot of people who don't do this. And if you actually hold people accountable and just say, well, they didn't show up, I guess that's just the way it is. No, you call them, you blow them up, you call them, you text them, you call them again, you send them an email, you mail them something in the mail. You don't give up on them because they need you to show up for them when they're not showing up for themselves. So I just wanted you to think like this is how you could lead with massive amounts of value, like, and demonstrate that in your competence as a coach. Demonstrate knowledge that someone else may not know and show back up for them when they're not expecting you to. That's how you deliver lots of value. And when you know these people well, and when you know the people in your network well, you're going to be like, oh, that's the guy who really likes caramels, right? And, oh, I saw a box of caramels. Maybe I'll buy them. They're maybe a couple bucks or a couple euros. I'm going to go ahead and buy them. And next time I see him at the next networking event, I'm going to bring them to him, right? Stuff like that goes a long, long way. because people, again, it demonstrates your character. It demonstrates the fact that you know them. It demonstrates the fact that it's not just a transaction, right? And that triggers the law of reciprocity. If you give something to someone else, they're going to want to give something to you. If you give a referral to someone else, they're going to want to give a referral to you. And most of the times when people's networking is not working, it's because they are not giving referrals. They're only expecting to get referrals. Does that make sense? So most of the time, again, I'll say it again, most of the time when people's networking is not working, it's because they go and they're expecting to get referrals, but they're not giving any referrals. And that's the problem. So you might be thinking, okay, well, how do you prep your network for giving you referrals? Well, first of all, make sure you're giving referrals, right? That's the first thing. But I want you to think about this. Let's say for argument's sake that, Anna, okay, she's a physicist, right? Which I just think is awesome, right? Like, I don't actually know very many scientists. But anyway, the interesting thing, like, if, let's say that she says, hey, I'm really like working with people who have problems with their electromagnets. And I'm like, okay, I don't know anybody who even owns an electromagnet. And she says, yeah, you might actually. Do you know of anybody who's working on an Iron Man suit? And I'm like, actually, I do know a few whack jobs that are trying to build an Iron Man suit in their garage. And, it's what we do here in Indiana. And they're like, okay, cool. Well, if they're having trouble with their electromagnet charging or powering their suits, that would be a good referral for me, right? I'm like, oh, okay. Well, now I know specifically how to help them. Now I'm making this all up and she might be going, yeah, that's not how that works at all. But my point is I'm being specific, right? She's being very specific. Like, hey, do you know anybody who is having that problem? And say, well, if you hear someone saying, gosh darn it, I'm working on this electromagnet for my Iron Man suit and it just isn't powering my suit. And here's what I'm going to tell you. This is what Anna would tell me. You just ask them, oh, really? Who's helping you with that? Who's helping you with that? Right? Do you understand? So, person saying to me, oh man, I can't get my Iron Man suit work because of the electromagnets not powering the thing. You go, okay, cool. Who's helping you with that? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know who works on electromagnets. Well, cool. I actually know this gal, Anna, right? And she lives, I don't know, remember where you live, right? That's called movie physics. Okay, pretend. Yes, it's all pretend, right? But I'm just saying, like, my point is that if that was the case, right? Who's helping you with that? You go, oh, well, no one. Well, cool. I got this gal, Anna. Would you like to connect with her? Okay. That's how you do that. I want you to think about that from that perspective so you can give them something where you can help people give you referrals. Because if you're not giving them that, of course you're not going to get referrals because you're making it too difficult. You're making it too difficult. So in other words, if, again, in terms of referrals for me, if I'm people who generally having trouble with staff, that's generally a dead giveaway that they're having problems with core values. That's a dead giveaway. And if they're having trouble with core values, they're probably also having trouble with company culture. And if they're having trouble with company culture, they're probably also having trouble with their company brand, because the company culture and the company brand are inextricably linked. So chances are they're having other issues. So if they're having trouble with their employees, they probably are having other troubles with their avatar, with their core purpose and other areas. So again, oh, really? Who's helping you with that? I don't really even know who to go to. I don't know. I was thinking about, maybe taking a class. Well, I know this guy, Mark, right? He might be able to help you with that. So I'm just saying, use those things to say, hey, if you ever come across someone, just use this phrase. Who's helping you with that? Coach them a little bit. You tell them to use this phrase. Is that making sense? All right. So yeah, I know it was completely made up, Anna, and I know that's not how that works, but it is movie physics. We are an Iron Man family. We had two boys who are 17 and 20, so they were that age. So here's a couple of other success strategies. First of all, I want you to hit with 15 reasons why people buy. This is and then there's actually 7 principles of persuasion that we talk about from Robert Cialdini. I'm going to hit these rather quick, and then some mistakes to avoid. So I'm going to put these all up, and I really want you to take these 15 reasons why people buy and take a screenshot of these. And just think about all the ways that you can help people either make money, save time, avoid effort, escape pain, have more comfort, more comfort, better health, which could be less stress, gain praise, feel more love, increase their status, right? People will buy for truth. They will buy for growth, which might be growth in their knowledge, growth in their faith, right? Growth in their muscles, their wellness. They'll buy for novelty just because something is new. They'll buy for certainty or more perceived control. They'll also buy in a contribution to others, right? So I just want you to think about this. Now, what I want you to do is take these numbers or take these things out here, and I want you to think about how you help people directly or indirectly help them make money, or how you help them directly or indirectly save money, or save time, or avoid effort, escape pain, directly or indirectly. And I want you to come up with as many reasons as possible under all of these. And imagine if you came up with 10 under each of these categories, you would have 150 ways why they might want to buy from you. How your product or service directly or indirectly helps them do each one of these things, right? So, Anna says, exactly, way too many takers out there. Exactly. You got to show up and be a giver. Giving leads and prompts to others and no responses, hence not my connection. Drop and keep trying. Yep, absolutely right. Ashley, you are more than welcome. I'm glad that you can make it. You might not have been able to stick around. Here's the thing, for those of you who do have to drop, I know we're running a little bit long, but you will be getting a replay of this in your email if you have signed up with this through Eventbrite. If you didn't, then obviously this will be on YouTube as well, so you can see it there. All right, we are almost done. So I want you to go through the 15 reasons why people buy, and I want you to think of the 7 principles of persuasion. And this is something that Robert Cialdini wrote about in his book called Influence. And he talked about reciprocity, which again is that giving with the expectation, with really no expectation of getting anything in return. Like if I give you something of value, you're going to give something of me of value. If I give you a referral, you're going to want to give something to me back of referral, right? That's the law of reciprocity. Commitment and consistency, social proof, liking, authority, scarcity, and being familial. All of those things, probably out of the most important is the one of reciprocity. So again, if your networking is not working, I want you to think about the law of reciprocity and how specifically that could be working for you at a much deeper level. Again, give them something valuable, give them a referral, give them something that's knowledgeable, right? Think about that. So again, mistakes to avoid is being unclear. If you're not clear, if your message is not clear, it's not going to get magically more clear when it leaves your lips to their ears. So it's got to be really clear about what it is that you do. What problems do you solve? What questions do you answer? Who do you specifically work for? Where do these people reside? Right? These are the things that you have to be really clear on. Failing to follow up, that is probably the most egregious because it's an easy thing to fix. Just make sure you follow up. And I would say within 24 hours, 24 business hours, if you want to do it that way. But I would be very set aside, if you have a networking function, you make sure you follow up and you have it in your calendar the next day to do that. So, and then monopolizing other people's times or monopolizing other people's time. So this is where, if you're at a networking event where you're saying, hey, look, monopolizing people's time is like where you found your networking buddy for the night and you're going to just keep talking to them. Look, you've got to have that kind of internal clock to let people go and network with other people. Being unauthentic, that's a dead giveaway. Don't be something you're not. Don't try to be something you're not. We'll just leave it there. There's really no more. And then not knowing the crowd. I'm actually this surprises me that people don't know about not knowing the crowd that they're getting ready to go network in. This is easy. I don't know why people wouldn't know the crowd that they're going to be in, but make sure that you know the crowd that you're going to be networking in prior to getting there. That's an easy one. And then of course I talked about being transactional versus relational. And that's an easy thing to fix. Don't try to go to transactional too quickly, where again, this is the VCP process: visibility, credibility, and then profitability. Make sure you're taking the time. And who determines that? Who determines when they're ready? It's just the nature of the transaction. So don't be too quick to be transactional. Get to trust as quickly as possible. Remember what we talked about is the fastest way to create trust is to demonstrate competence. And the fastest way to destroy trust is to demonstrate a lack of character. We're going to wrap up with this little funny story here. I'll put the fries in the bag. You are more than welcome, Eugene. I'm glad that this was helpful for you. Kamara, Very good. I'm glad that you got some takeaways from this. So if you see this photo here, I'm gonna take myself down. But this photo here is actually a photo of a bank robber, and this guy MacArthur Wheeler and Clifton Johnson robbed two banks at gunpoint with no attempts to disguise themselves. Like they were. This was back in 1995. And the interesting thing is they covered themselves in, of all things, lemon juice, and they believed that the lemon juice would make them invisible. I am not making this up. So the interesting thing about this is that it made these two researchers stop and think, wait a minute, this can't be true. So what they did, these two researchers, Dunning and Kruger, they looked at the relationship of competence to confidence. And they realized that down in the bottom, they started the bottom left, and you've got the competence scale on the bottom, it goes from left to right, and then your confidence goes up. Well, when you start out in an endeavor, your confidence spikes up really quickly. Like, how hard could it be, right? It couldn't be that hard, right? And it spikes up very quickly until you get to the peak of Mount Stupid, okay? And now what happens here is it peaks pretty quickly. And all of a sudden you realize, oh, wait a minute, I don't know what I don't know. And it starts to come crashing down pretty fast as you learn more and you get into the valley of despair. So when you get into the valley of despair, this is where you start to realize you know what you don't know, but you start to wonder, do I really want to put in the work to really learn what I don't know? And that's where people, if they stay on it and they stay and build their knowledge and they start climbing up that slope of enlightenment, that's where they'll get eventually to the plateau of sustainability because they've worked and increased their levels of competence. So this is where I'd like to invite you guys, if, it's about having a support system. And I have a support system on School. You can go to this website right here, and it's also there at the bottom of that graphic there. I'll also go ahead and put this in the comment section. But really, I'd love to hear from you guys. If you have any last minute questions, I'll stay on here for another minute or so while I copy this. But if you'd like to put anything in there, any questions? All right, there is that. Okay, you guys can click on that. That will take you directly into the classroom. There's no charge for that as of right now. I may change that in the future, but right now there is no charge to join that community. And again, you can network in there. You can communicate back and forth. I put some content in there that is helpful, but again, there's a paid part of it. But right now, I don't have any intention of shutting that down right away. There'll be I'll keep that free for a little bit. All right, everybody, that's all I have. I don't see any other comments. Thank you so very much for sticking around. I know we went a little long, but thanks again for being here. Happy New Year to all of you. I hope you found this helpful, and I hope you've gotten some good takeaways to make your networking far more effective. All right, Anna, you are more than welcome. Found School a few months ago. On my way, on my flowchart. Okay, very good. Excellent. Well, it's good to meet you, Anna. Good to meet you, Sarah. It is absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for sticking around. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time, and we'll see you in the boardroom.